Imagine you're standing among thousands on a clear September afternoon in Orem, Utah. The sun warms the air. Excitement buzzes. Conversations ripple across an outdoor quad. This is Utah Valley University. A crowd of about 3,000 has gathered to hear Charlie Kirk, the conservative activist and co-founder of Turning Point USA. His American Comeback Tour is underway. The stage is set, the tent marked with his slogans. The American Comeback, Prove Me Wrong. 30 minutes in, Kirk engages in a Q&A debate with student Hunter Kozak, discussing mass shootings in the United States. The question, do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters over the last 10 years? Kirk responds, too many. Kozak follows up, do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years? Kirk's voice rising, counting or not counting gang violence. Then comes the shot. A rifle bullet from a rooftop nearly 200 yards away strikes Kirk in the neck. He collapses under a white tent, blood visible. The audience gasps, screams, people duck for cover. Within moments, Charlie Kirk is declared dead at the hospital later that afternoon. He was 31. Hands move to phones. Cameras record. Social media explodes. News banners flash. Donald Trump confirms the death on his platform. A wave of grief, anger, confusion sweeps the nation. Police, media, witnesses all scramble for answers. Who fired the shot? From where? And why? Why did this happen? And what does it mean for America's future? It was midday on September 10th, 2025. Outside in the quad of Utah Valley University, in Orem, Utah, a crowd of nearly 3,000 people had gathered for the first stop of Charlie Kirk's American Comeback Tour. Under a white tent emblazoned with the tour's name, students, parents, supporters, and protesters stood shoulder to shoulder. The air was warm. The afternoon sun drained with a golden glow. Voices rose and fell in anticipation. Conversations about politics, education, free speech. Phones ready to record. Cameras flashing. Flags waving. Signs held high. A place where beliefs, disagreement, and passion all mingled. Security was present, but limited. 6 campus police officers, plus Kirk's private security detail. Metal detectors, bag checks. These were tools of indoor arenas, not this open quad. There were gatherings outside the tent, people wanting to hear, wanting to be part of the moment. Protesters at the edges. Supporters up front. The stage sat under the tent. Kirk approaching with the confidence of a speaker used to large crowds. At about 12:02 p.m., the event was underway. Kirk took questions. One student asked about mass shootings, another about social and political issues. The debate sharpened. Enthusiasm built. Kirk, engaged, pointed, speaking out loud, counting gang violence or not, something along those lines. Then it happened. At 12:23 p.m., a single shot. A rifle somewhere above, on the rooftop of the Losi Student Success Center, approximately 140 to 150 yards away from where Kirk stood. The sound cracked. Sharp. It cut through the afternoon, through the speeches and questions. In that moment, the crowd froze. Eyewitness Raiden Desheen, seated near the stage, heard the shot. He saw Kirk's body slump, blood visible at his neck. Shock spread immediately. Some thought the noise was loud applause or a mic feedback. It did not sound like gunfire at first. Then the realization, Kirk was hurt. People screamed. Some jumped to their feet. Others dove to the ground. Cover was sought behind whatever structure possible. The canopy tent flapped. Chairs were abandoned. Phones raised, capturing the chaos. Some were frozen. Others fled. The roar of confusion. Seconds stretched. Kirk was lifted by security, carried toward an SUV. First responders were summoned. Sirens in the distance. The campus alerted. Staff and police scrambled. The university grounds became a maze of panic. Someone detained a man nearby, older, distressed. He claimed responsibility, or perhaps was confused by the chaos. He was later released. He was not the shooter. Meanwhile, cameras on nearby buildings captured a figure leaving the rooftop. Dark clothing, mask, rifle in hand, moving toward a staircase, then slipping out of view. On that day, after surgery at Timpanogos Regional Hospital, Charlie Kirk was declared dead later that afternoon. He was 31 years old. The news broke first through media channels, then via Donald Trump's Truth Social. The former president posted about Kirk's death, expressing grief. How could a single bullet end the voice of someone heard by millions? Was this random violence, or the act of someone who planned carefully and chose Kirk for reasons beyond what the crowd saw? He was born Charles James Kirk on October 14, 1993, in Arlington Heights, Illinois. His upbringing was comfortable. His father worked as an architect designing homes. His mother held jobs in financial trading and later mental health counseling. The family lived in a suburban neighborhood where political talk at home wasn't unusual. Young Charlie showed early interest in conservative ideas. Ronald Reagan admired, textbooks questioned, debates with classmates. He was sharp, confident, eager. By the time he was in high school, Kirk was already voicing concerns that many of his peers considered radical. Is the education system biased? Are schools pushing ideas he felt were unbalanced? He applied to West Point, hoping perhaps for discipline, structure, purpose, but was rejected. He later claimed the decision was unfair. But that setback sharpened his determination rather than dimming it. At age 18, fresh out of high school, Kirk met Bill Montgomery, a Tea Party activist. Montgomery saw in Kirk a raw energy, a voice that could be amplified. Together, they founded Turning Point USA in 2012, an organization meant to push back against what Kirk and others perceived as liberal dominance in college campuses. It would be built on free markets, limited government, traditional values. Basic in some sense, but for Kirk it was urgent. No long wait, no slow build. He dropped or left formal college studies, focused full-time on building the movement. Turning Point USA began small. Debates on liberal versus conservative campus policies. Public appearances. Videos uploaded online. What set Kirk apart was his drive. He understood media, messaging, controversy. He created the professor watch list, followed by the school board watch list, naming professors or school board members who he said promoted what he called left-leaning or anti-freedom ideas. These watch lists drew fierce criticism, but also attention. They amplified Tepeuza's profile. By mid-2010s, Tepeuza had chapters in numerous high schools and colleges. Kirk became a regular on right-wing media, Fox News, podcasts, and a leading voice among youth conservatives. He cultivated a public persona, strong, unapologetic, direct. He aligned himself with Donald Trump's political ascent. While he was not initially one of Trump's most vocal supporters, he pivoted, supported Trump's policies, and helped mobilize young voters in crucial swing states. Tepeuza and its affiliates expanded rapidly. Fundraising from major conservative donors increased. The organization produced conferences, regional summits, action campaigns. By 2025, it had become one of the leading conservative youth organizations in the U.S. As influence grew, criticism intensified. Supporters saw in Kirk someone courageous enough to fight back against what they felt was liberal overreach, pro-free speech, pro-Second Amendment, pro-traditional values. They admired him for debating on college stages, confronting progressive professors, and giving conservative youth a platform. They believed he was standing up for what was being silenced. Critics accused him of oversimplifying complex issues. They said his rhetoric often inflamed divisions, that his positions were provocative for provocation's sake. They pointed out what they saw as selective outrage, focusing on liberal bias but not always holding conservative figures to comparable standards. They highlighted Tepeuza's watch lists as threats to academic freedom. Some of his statements on trans rights, gender issues, or COVID-19 policies drew fierce backlash. Some claimed that his rhetoric contributed to polarization on campuses. He embraced the role of provocateur. He leaned into social media virality. Interviews, debates, clips that trended, sometimes because of outrage, sometimes because of admiration. He became a generational symbol for many. For others, a figure who personified what they saw as America's cultural fault lines. For every student who felt inspired by him, there was another who felt represented out of fear or frustration. For every speech that rallied supporters, there was a counter-speech, a protest, a media counterpoint. But this tension, this clashing of perspectives, was part of what defined Charlie Kirk's movement. What makes a leader so powerful that their very words become dangerous? Was Kirk truly a unifier or a divider? As we understand the life Charles James Kirk built, from young skeptic in Illinois to national conservative icon, it becomes clear how his rise shaped expectations. He was seen by many as the voice of the next generation of conservative America. But standing at such a height also places any figure in danger. Danger from opposition, from internal tension, and, as we would see, from unexpected attack. Matter of minutes. The Orem Police, Utah Department of Public Safety, local campus security, these were first on scene. But almost instantly, federal agencies joined. The FBI, the ATF, working alongside county sheriffs and statewide investigators. They faced immediate challenges. Outdoor political rallies, unlike indoor arenas, offer little control over vantage points. Doors unchecked. Rooftops accessible. Air open to observation. No metal detectors at this event. No high walls around the tent stage. Within hours, rumors circulated. Some said a suspect was in custody. Others said multiple shooters. Surveillance photos of a person of interest released with vague descriptions. Long-sleeve shirt, hat, sunglasses. The public debated motives. Some sources claimed ideological hatred. Others blamed mental instability. Misinformation spread via social media and fringe websites, complicating the law enforcement effort. Authorities urged calm. They warned the public not to spread unverified claims. As daylight shifted, investigators turned their attention to hard evidence. In a wooded area near Utah Valley University, they recovered a high-powered bolt-action rifle, believed to have been used in the fatal shot. They sent the weapon to the FBI laboratory in Quantico for analysis. Along with the rifle came footwear impressions, a palm print, and forearm imprints collected from the rooftop and surrounding escape route. Each piece could point toward matching someone. Matching gait, matching palm, matching skin features. Ballistic experts examined the trajectory. The shot came from roughly 200 yards away, from a rooftop overlooking the quad. The angle was deliberate, the kind of shot that demands both confidence and technical knowledge. It suggests the shooter was aware of distance, wind factors, and sight alignment. Former FBI agents said that while you don't need to be a military sniper to make that distance with the right rifle and scope, the precision required shows someone who was practiced. Authorities also recovered surveillance video showing a figure moving across the rooftop, then descending and escaping toward the wooded area. One of the videos showed the rifle wrapped in what appeared to be a towel or cloth as the suspect attempted to conceal it. These images were released partially to the public, though officials kept much under seal, citing investigative integrity. Investigators also launched over 200 interviews, canvassed neighborhoods, reviewed hundreds of hours of camera footage, and appealed to the public for help. More than 7,000 tips poured in. A reward of $100,000 was offered for information leading to arrest. In interviews with analysts, one recurring theme: how unpredictable an attack like this is when a speaker is exposed with minimal physical barriers. Former FBI Supervisory Special Agent Dennis Franks said that a shooter watching from a rooftop 200 yards away has enough advantage if they understand sighting, ballistics, and trajectories. Other experts noted that many of these events assume that open-air venues are safe, in part because everybody thinks they're low risk, but that complacency leaves serious vulnerabilities. If someone can find a heightened vantage point like a rooftop, they can use it. Securing every possible line of sight is costly and difficult. Still, some argue it must become standard for public figures. Academic studies of political violence in the U.S. show a rise in incidents where ideology meets opportunity, especially online. Ideological conflict, amplified by social media, often precedes violent actions. Misinformation, rumors, and reactive narratives make investigations harder, but also shape public perception, even before facts are clear. Law enforcement sources say one major hurdle has been false leads. People claiming to have seen the shooter when they did not. Videos purporting to show suspects, but then cleared. Photos shared online with incorrect captions. Every wrongful lead distracts resources. Every piece of evidence must be verified. Another challenge, determining motive. Was it personal, ideological, a response to his rhetoric, or something else? Authorities have recovered text exchanges linking the suspect to political beliefs, but they have not yet released a clear, publicly confirmed motive. Was this the work of a lone wolf, or part of something larger? Can democracy survive if public spaces become killing grounds? For the thousands of students and supporters present that day, the memory of the gunshot has left an indelible scar. Some describe nightmares, panic attacks, and an ongoing fear of crowded public gatherings. Utah Valley University's counseling centers reported a surge in students seeking trauma support in the weeks following. For many young people, this tragedy served as a breaking point, convincing them that politics is too dangerous, too divisive, and not worth the personal risk. Some withdrew completely from activism, deleting accounts and avoiding rallies. Yet for others, the assassination had the opposite effect. They vowed to become more engaged, determined to defend free speech and protect democratic processes from the threat of violence. Youth groups across the country began holding forums, not just to remember Charlie Kirk, but to wrestle with the question of how to ensure that a voice, any voice, is never again silenced with a bullet. Beyond politics, Charlie Kirk was a son, a husband, a brother, and a friend. His family's grief, shared at memorial services and in statements, reminded the nation that behind the headlines was a man who left behind loved ones. His wife spoke of a life cut short, of plans and dreams that would never be realized. Friends described him as relentless, energetic, and uncompromising, qualities that often made him polarizing, but also defined his role in American political life. The mourning was not just public, but deeply private, a reminder that every political figure is also a human being, whose loss is felt most profoundly by those closest to them. Within minutes of the news breaking, political figures across the spectrum issued statements. Former President Donald Trump took to Truth Social, calling the shooting a devastating attack on free speech and urging his supporters to stand strong, now more than ever. Republican leaders framed it as a direct political assassination, a chilling message that no one with a microphone is safe. On the other side, Democratic leaders expressed condolences, condemning violence while emphasizing the need to protect political discourse for all voices, left, right, or center. The contrast revealed not just grief, but a widening gulf in how America interprets tragedy. Candlelight vigils appeared outside Utah Valley University, in Chicago, where Kirk grew up, and in cities across the nation. Students held posters, prayers were said, and flowers piled at makeshift memorials. Online, the reaction was split. Many mourned the death, flooding social platforms with tributes and clips of Kirk's fiery speeches. But disturbing trends also emerged. A small but vocal minority of online groups celebrated his assassination, sparking outrage and intensifying anger across the country. For Kirk's family, friends, and the students who had witnessed the shooting firsthand, grief was personal, immediate, and raw. Their pain contrasted sharply with the cold discourse raging online. The organization Kirk had built from scratch, Turning Point USA, quickly issued a statement. Charlie's mission was never about one man. It was about empowering millions. And that mission will continue. Leaders of the group vowed to keep Kirk's voice alive by expanding their outreach and doubling down on his message. For Kirk's loyal followers, this was a rallying cry. His death would not silence the movement, but instead strengthen it. Historians and commentators drew comparisons to earlier acts of political violence in America. From the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, to the shooting of Gabby Giffords in Arizona, to tragedies stretching back decades, America has struggled with the recurring shadow of political bloodshed. This new incident forced a haunting reflection. Was this just another chapter or the beginning of a darker era in modern politics? Has America's political divide grown so toxic that violence feels inevitable? What happens when democracy itself begins to feel fragile? Charlie Kirk's voice may be gone, but the echoes of that single gunshot will never be forgotten. His story is not just about one man, but about the country he leaves behind, a nation now confronted with its deepest questions. When violence enters politics, the cost is never measured in headlines alone. It is felt in the silence of families left behind, in the fear of students who witnessed history unfold, and in the fragile trust between citizens who must decide whether democracy is worth protecting. The future of America will not be written by a single bullet, nor by a single voice. It will be written by the millions who choose every day between fear and courage, between silence and dialogue, between violence and peace. This is a true life story, but its ending belongs to us all. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Is political violence reshaping America's future? Join the conversation and stay with us for more true life stories.